Good afternoon, May 7th, 12:01 p.m. We're going to do a review of a lot of the plays that I've been in for the last 6 weeks or so. If I can't squeeze into the hour the new setups, then I will follow up this video tomorrow at midday with all the new setups. So basically what I'm going to do is just review them to make sure that everybody knows what direction we're going in. I've got a lot of questions lately about the models. Just give me 1 second here. So with the trade coaching that I've been doing and private sessions and stuff, I've had a lot of questions about the models. So there's 5 generations of these models. The simplest of the models are what you're looking at on the screen. So this is a generation 2 model, I guess close to the simplest. But all you do to make it really simple is these diamonds are made up of Fibonacci diagonal trend lines. And what they do is they give you the trading structure. The horizontals are Fib related support and resistance. So these quad walls, these diamonds, become support and resistance. The horizontal lines become support and resistance. But your real important ones are at the top and the bottom of every quad. So right here, the S&P's main resistance is 267.99. The other main support and resistance is at the middle of the diamond, because that's where the bottom and the top of the next diamond is, right? So this would be your main support and resistance on this chart. This would be your main support and resistance, this one, and then down here. In between, those are support and resistance, but just not as important. When you see the vertical lines, those are time cycle completions, or peaks is really what they are, or completions. The thing to keep in mind is that they are only there for reference in terms of trade direction on a shorter time frame. So don't let these targets confuse you. Like right now, you've got a bit of an uptrend going here, and if it breaks this resistance, for example, then your next target would be right here at 273.34. If it doesn't break resistance before it gets to that time cycle, then your target is down here at 262.77. So let's say, for simplicity's sake, that you've seen trade, at this quad wall. Well, there's the MAs too, support and resistance, the MAs. So there's a 20, 50, 100, and 200 MA. Right here where it failed the 200 MA, failed the quad, failed the horizontal fibs, tanked all the way down to the quad wall, and then dumped a little further. And I was putting out alerts on the buy side up here. Let's say you took the buy side. What you do then is you trim into this resistance right here. And then when it gets over top, you add again. You trim into the next resistance. It gets up over top and you add again. And here you would have got, maybe cut up a little bit, maybe not, as long as you're on top of it. Gets up over, add, trim as you go into, and add above as you get into your MAs. So this is, this is tighter trading. It depends on the timeline too, the time frame that it's based on. This model is a 60-minute model. So, it's tight, but it's not that tight. But at the same time, if you hit a quad wall like this and you go long, you really don't have to manage it much all the way up unless you want to. That's just the way to be the safest. So it depends on your time frames and how much time you have to put in to what you're doing. But you can swing these models on short time frames, long time frames, and you just need to know how to trade it. So I'll give you an example. This mid quad line here, when it bounced at the wall here, this diagonal, and I got up over that mid, that would be a long that you could hold until the next main resistance. So you can just trade those main support and resistance levels. You can go over, and you can set your stop too, right? You can move your stops up, trim as you go. This is an example where you would, as you're going along, you would just trim as you check your your play, and as you get closer to resistance, you'd really trim. See, there's not a lot of minute there, you just have to know how to do it. And it's that simple. So it's trading like paint by numbers. It's not a complicated thing. A lot of people just make it more complicated than it is. But if you're going to wide time frame the swings, you got to go from support and resistance to support and resistance to support and resistance, and that's how you do it. Tighter time frames, you can use the other indicators on there. So the S&P is fighting with resistance that we've seen over here. We had bought the big washout that happened down in here, and we had traded it all the way through, and then we traded it down, and it's gone. You can see in a trend how it'll come, it'll hit the targets. So up over 268, it targets 273.28. Under that and fails, it targets down here at 262.78, and it's that easy. So that's the S&P. AMD, I had alerted this a few times. At first I was going to short, and then there was some positive news, and then it became a long. It was at a mid-quad area. It was starting to fail and got into the target, and I thought for sure it would fail in here, but then some positive news was coming out. Right now it's getting up near the 200 MA. This is a daily chart. You can tell by the here. It's getting up near the 200 MA. It's at a intraday resistance, so I put out an alert that said trim. It's missed this mid-quad target. The targets will always be at mid-quad, top of the quad, bottom of the quad. And so it's just a way to directionally plan your trade. It's a visual method. If it gets up over this resistance, if it gets up over that 200 MA, it's targeting, well right now it's targeting 1221. And the date on that would be on the 29th of this month. I'm still banking on a dump, but we'll see. Right now it's a trim into that resistance. So that's AMD. Disney. So this has been on alert for a while, and it's starting to prove out now. It's right at a resistance. It's hard to see, I'm sure, on your chart there, but it's at 102.07, so it's just up over a support resistance. The important thing is there's this quad wall here. That's a diagonal trend line, and typically price will follow those either up or down. And so it's been a little funky, but I like this play long. But you got ER, so I put out an alert to trim. Today, as far as your numbers, your target here is 103.57 on the 29th. This is a daily chart. If it dumps, your target on the same day is 96.90ish. So that's Disney. TSG, this is one that I've been watching as a breakout. This is a 15-minute chart. Let's bring it over to a daily. It's an extremely aggressive chart, but I like the setup. Right now it's just holding that support. So over that support, if it closes over that support today, it would be a long, but it's got ER on deck, so I won't trade it into ER now. It's too close. I'll trade it on the other side of ER, but I'll still be watching it close. I like it for a breakout possibility, but nobody knows how price will react to earnings. There's no model for that one. CTSH, this is one that I've liked all the way up. It obviously trends. It lost the 200 once. Well, twice, I guess. There was a bit of a panic. But no, this is a big chart. This is a weekly. I've got to improve that background so it's easier to see. Anyway, it does work through its MAs really well, and here I'm watching it for a possible bounce. We'll see if it does. If not, you just wait until you go to the next. That's the 50 MA or the 100 MA or the 200 MA. When it bounces, you take the long. But we'll see. It's down 5%. Apple, we've been working this one real heavy. Again, on the washout, where the S&P washed out shortly after we got into Apple. I get up over the 200 here. So each support resistance, we've been trimming into it and adding on top. And now today I put out an alert that it's getting close to its next resistance at 18861 area. If it gets up over that, your next trim should be at 19141. I don't think it's going to get up in the short term over this resistance at 18860-ish, but we'll see. I think you'll probably see it retrace a bit and then go again. It's probably going to retrace to its previous high here in that neighborhood, or here, 184.26, and then go again to 19134. If it doesn't go and it fails, you just got to watch your next support. If it doesn't jump at that next support, you got to watch for your next support. But that's been a decent play for sure. Snap. So this one is a washout. This is one of the few that are underwater for me, and it's barely underwater because this was the washout area. We took a long, and I'm watching it very close. There's a time cycle coming in around the 10th, and it's possible it'll dump into here, but I think it's going to get a bounce after and chase this target here for around 12:30, June 8th. So we'll see if that actually happens. If it doesn't, and I have to take a small loss, I will. But the thing is, you know, the sizing is, you know, should be at most 3% of your account in these. If it's anything more than that, you got to watch them really close, and if they just don't prove out fast, you got to cut fast. JD, this was one, there's no model for it. It was a gap play. I alerted last week, and I put out a post today because it got rate. It filled this little gap. So that was a fairly decent play. For now, for me, that's it. I mean, that was the play. It was just a short-term play. So we'll see how it firms up here. ITCI, I really like this one. On the alert, I had said it, and I even put it out to the public that I thought this dump was way overdone. So I was watching for the 200 bounce. We did get the bounce. The only problem with this setup is that the squeeze momentum indicator, which is really important for it to turn green, has not. So the squeeze isn't on yet. That's just some new buying. The MACD is crossed up, the stochastic RSI, but that squeeze momentum, so there's no panic covering or anything in here yet. But if it gets up over its previous high there, well, especially if it goes up over the 50 MA and around 2060, it's gone. And then there's support and resistance levels above on the charting. If it fails, then you want to watch that 200 MA, of course. But there's the other important resistance, support and resistance levels. So there's a big one in the 24 range, 2384, another one at 3061. I'd like to see it prove out and get up into these and be an excellent trade. We'll see. That's ITCI. SSW has been fantastic. Followed this quad wall, the trend, diagonal trend line, fairly close. It kind of dumped in here like a few others did. But we've been trading it up. It was alerted into this target, and it hit it perfect. So that's been an awesome trade. Now that it's there, it's got to prove itself to run up into this next target here. So this is around 1188 on July 11th. If it fails, and it sure could, 521 is possible on the same day around July 11th. But it did get up over an important resistance that it kept failing at. So that's significant. So it is possible you're going to see that upside target. That's what I'm going to trade, and as long as it proves, I'm going to keep going with it. So that's SSW. This will just take me a minute to get a few more up here. So oil, of course, has been really strong. Here's what I'm watching from a wider view. So this is a monthly oil chart. Its main pivot on this monthly chart is literally where it's trading here today. So it's in the $69, $70 range, the pivot. The other challenge it's got is the 100 MA is around 74.92 and the 200 MA is under it. So what do I expect? It would be highly probable to consider that it's going to use this pivot as a coil, and that 100 MA is going to be resistance, and that 200 MA is going to be support as it coils around it and it breaks to the up or downside. If it does break to the upside, I'd be prepared for a head fake, or even the downside of the 200. I don't think it's going to break up over that 100 until it's got the 20 to work with it and use as a back test, and then keep going. So I think we could see a dump here into the 20 MA as it gets closer, and the 200 MA are closer. We'll see. It is a long though until the 100 MA. It's just a matter of timing it properly. But I do like it. And I have to apologize, this is going to be a slow process here today because we got to be able to load these charts and Snap. Did I explain Snap? I did, didn't I? SPY. PG. This is one that Sean brought into the room. Just want to check on it. I don't have it modeled, but as these prove out, I'll get them modeled. I think considering the time, we're going to have to do the new ones tomorrow, which might be better because I'll get them all prepared properly. So this is a major washout, and if you've been watching my plays, washouts for me are very important for ROI. I am pretty in tune with these. So I've got this alerted at 74.12 area. It got up to 73.22 today, and that's just simply the previous high over here, getting into resistance there. This just might not do it until the MAs come in and get under, but we're watching, so we'll see. IOTS, so this is an aggressive bullish breakout play that I've been alerting. It's got a pivot right in around 905. It's trading 840 today. It popped up and then it lost it. I didn't go long. I'm waiting for it to prove. So we'll see if it gets up there. If it doesn't, it's actually probably a fairly good short down to the 200 MA. But I love it. The chart structure itself is incredibly bullish. This previous high here of around 845 is a nice support. So it dumped into it, and we'll see. Love the look of that play though. Very, very powerful structure. The dollar. So I had a number of people ask me about the dollar over the last few days. So this structure, the way that it works, I will tell you, if you trade structures, it's a lot less stressful than trading a lot of other indicators, you know. So when you've got a model and you know the structure, and you know, it starts to dump on you or whatever, and you know that it's still in its structure, you're fine. You don't have the sleepless nights. Anyway, I won't explain this model because it's a 4th generation model. So it's pretty intense in terms of its calculations and stuff. But the long story short is that every line is a support and resistance. And right now, it should follow this green line, it should follow it up to the pink and pinch and come above and come in here. If it doesn't, it's going to fail and work itself into this triangle in here. It's going to do one of the two. I'm expecting it to get up and over. The white line is basically the base, the whole base structure of the model. It dumped underneath it, but the whole time it dumped underneath it, nobody's seen me talking the dollar down. Like, everybody was saying king dollar's done. I just sat and I watched all this because I knew this was all divergent. And sure enough, they shot it back up into its structure. And that's what I mean by structure. So once you learn how these structures work, you can be confident in what you're doing. And, I've put out so many alerts since we started our service where I would say, oil's divergent or this is divergent. And I just know it's, if it's divergent to the downside, it's going to come back into its structure. If it's divergent to the upside, it's going to, come down into its structure. So right now, the dollar is literally returning to its structure. And this is kind of typically how it happens. When it's time for it to return, the machines just take it. But the humans have to be in there trading it. That's why the machines go with it. So, but they're really efficient at how they do it. So this was the mess down in here you've seen over the last few months. So what are you watching for? You're watching for this area right here on the 9th. So that's another nice thing about the these structures is you have time frames, right? So right around the 9th at 92, 91, so over 93, after the 9th, you should see it take another spike. If not, it's going to be in this structure down here. So I know, it gets up over here, it starts to follow this line. I know to long it up into here. That's why my alarm's set there. If it comes down in here, I know, it's going to just screw around. If it falls out of its structure again, there's this diagonal trend line here. This is no coincidence that it was there. You can see how it came up, worked against it, planted on it, and then ran. So that's the dollar. Do I expect it to keep going? I think it's gonna get up into here, and then this is the big test in here, 94.43 area, and that comes in around the 28th. So that's the dollar. It's going to play out soon. If it does get up over this green line, by the way, it's going to probably hit here, 97.82. So this is your trajectory. This is the bullish trajectory. And that's been there forever. It's not like, I just put it there. Okay, so that's a general idea of the dollar. I know it's hard to understand, but this is 4th generation. So once you know how to use the models really well, then, it's simple to use, but it's not until you understand how they work. Here's a 2nd generation model for the dollar. We'll take a look at it really quick because it'll be easier to understand. This one will take a minute. It's huge. But it's actually pretty important to take a look at. In fact, it might not even load on this laptop. It's one of the bigger models. Might have to load it on a gaming laptop here. Looks like we're going to load. Dang, I thought we had it. Okay, well, instead of making you wait here, oh, here it comes. Okay, so it's in its simple structure that we had alerted actually. The thing about these models is that you kind of know stuff in advance, so it just depends on how tuned in the models are. But down here I had alerted that you know, there is a possible turn, and so I gave the channel that it would take if there was a turn, and sure enough it's followed that channel. Now you got to be careful in here because it could dump this channel and do a retrace. So if it dumps, the yellow line isn't the channel, it's just showing you the direction of the channel. This blue line here, the quad wall, is the channel wall. So it's almost right at the test. If it dumps it, especially if it comes down into under 92.25, that mid quad, well, first this 92.62 dumps that, you're targeting 92.23. But I would expect after a retrace, probably to 91.87, you'll see another bounce. But it's been really structured through that channel, and you have to keep in mind that was drawn in advance of trade getting there. So we'll see. Really, really, really strong turn. So be careful shorting it. VIX. VIX. So the short story on this is that I alerted it when it went divergent to the downside. And so this is a weekly chart. And where was that? That was at this quad wall. So you see how they make up the diamonds. And right in here, it was falling out of it. And so I alerted it, letting our traders know, you know, don't expect it to jump anytime soon. Its next time cycle is going to come in right around July 16th. And if you start to see it work up, it's going to target on July 16th, 31.40. If it doesn't and it loses juice, it's going to target down here at $10. But I wouldn't doubt that it's going to get another jump, and where that's going to happen, I'm not sure, but I'm watching for it to turn. So there should be some volatility in the works. The last few spikes, I've hit that pretty much dead on in advance. So of course we have different models for it. So silver, this isn't the easiest play. I really like the idea of silver long. One of the few things I have underwater, the two or three that I have underwater very slight. Silver I'm not in, but I am a little underwater with gold, but not much. I mean, just a hair. Silver is struggling with the 100 MA. It's almost like it's using it as a pivot to the up or downside. So be really careful with that. The suspicion I have, so it's, you know, you can see how it's in a compression phase, but that, you know, that compression phase any longer than the end of the month is, I don't think it's going to happen. So I think you're going to see an upside or a downside pretty serious move, and my trader bias is to the upside, but nobody knows right now, and we have models for it, of course, that I'm just not bringing up, but that's what's going on. So you're going to see a big move soon. It's not far away. So I would watch silver very, very close. There'll be some good returns in there. GDX, let's take a look at this model here. Okay, so it's hard to see, but it's running up this quad wall here. and it's just under the 200 MA. So it's still working toward that target. It fell out of the quad wall once, hit the 50 MA, and then bounced. And so its target's in and around 23.15 on the 4th of June. It already hit the target up here, so it hit it early and then it came off, and now it's chasing it again. If it completely failed, it would be after 21.05 on the same day. But my bias is to the upside, and it has been on my alerts. It's looking good. It's done quite well. I mean, it's fallen out here a little bit, but not much. That's GDX. Gold. So I'll show you what I'm doing with gold. This was actually more of a hedge for me, but I did put out an alert to the long side to start alongside on it. So you can see here it fell out of its structure and bounced almost immediately. Hit the 200 MA and bounced. Now it's basically at resistance to get back into this structure, and my target is up here at 1353.89 on July 25th. So it's not it's not a big run, but that's the structure I'm working with. If it doesn't keep it and it dumps it, it's 1277.93 on the same date around July 25th. And that's your gold. So no big news there, but I think we're going to see both gold and silver get going, but nobody knows. You got to follow price. LITE. So this is not an actual play I'm in, it's something on watch. So I put out that alert down in here that I said, it seems oversold. It's up 3.82% today. It's getting close to its mid quad resistance at 53.90. No, I'm sorry, it gapped. That's right. I'm watching the wrong mid quad, 64.90. So I put out the alert that said I think it's oversold. Watch into earnings, and then I missed it. I missed my alarm on it. It gapped, planted on the 200. That's right, and then now it's about to test the 50 MA. But it's really this upside 64.95 that you really got to be careful with. I can't remember where I put that alert out, but it's on here somewhere. So that's been an excellent play for the people that caught it. I completely missed it though. I set it up, I alerted it, and then I missed it. So that kind of peeves me off. I haven't missed too many of these that I've set up here. CELG, so this one is soft. So this is one of 2 or 3 that are just slightly underwater. But man, the returns on these other plays have been just fantastic. And that LITE, too bad I missed it. Okay, so here's CELG. It's still in structure, it's fine, but it's soft. So at this point right now, it's got to hold in here. It's got to hold this quad wall, and it's not going to be a great play, but it's June 11th for around 86.25. If it really got going, same date, it would be 95.71. If it tanks, you're looking at 76.66. So it's under pressure for sure, but it's still structured. This mid quad here, the thing about it is you got to know how these trade, and the way that CELG works is it'll come up and it'll test the next resistance and it'll test the next support, just like the S&P does around that mid quad. So you short, you trim or short it there, you long it there until it makes a decision to the up or the downside. So this is all structure in here, just like in here, same thing. And then it ran up the quad wall, tried to gain some support, shot for the target, and then fell off And now it's just a matter of, is it going to dump under 83.91, or is it going to get up over 88.72, and you can trade the range until then. And then once it goes either way, then you trade into the targets. But your first target, even though you don't see a target here at mid quad, this is your first target to the upside, 95.71. I still like the play because it's structured, but you know, I'm a little off on it. HIIQ. This is fun to trade, good returns. This is one messy chart. The reason it's so messy is it can really get going when it gets going. So it's trading 27.90, so it's in and around here. So it's in and around this mid quad. May 16th, 17th, the time cycle comes due. So it's either going to be trading on that day into 31.05 or down here at 26.70. If it really dumped, it would be down here, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going for the upside. And then after that, if it proves out into this next zone, your big resistance is in that 31.10 range, then it's going to target up here for 35.60-ish or 35.70 on August 9th-ish. Really like this play, but you got to get a hold of the chart and take a good look at it and make decisions on your own for it. You can see how it's bouncing off the 200 MA, and this is a mid-quad line. So this is strong support in here. But we'll see if it gets going. If you learn how to do these models, it doesn't take a lot. If you learn how to do them and you learn how to trade them, it's the most predictable, stress-free way to trade. If you go back into my reports and alerts, you'll find that a very high percentage of them hit. Okay, so AAOI, this is my nemesis from last year. It's starting to pay a bit. It got right through this mid-quad target, bounced up. You see this is doing the same thing, right? So your mid-quad, the support underneath, and the resistance above, and it's bouncing in between. So it's just up and over that test to the upside. Last time it lost it, but this is pretty typical. Now the 20 is coming, and I wouldn't doubt you see the bounce, and you should see it bounce. You know, it could really take off over the next few days, because if it chases this trajectory, it's 39 by the 15th of this month, so it's going to get going to do that. So we'll see, but it's possible. Then you just got to watch that 200 MA as it dive bombs into it. So I'm expecting that 200 MA, the quad wall, everything to meet right there, right in around 39 bucks. And that 8 is right around the 14th. But with all of these things that I say, you have to make sure you go with price, right? You got to follow it. You never know. This is just GPS. It helps you see. FSLR, yeah, this is a tough one. We'll see. So I just can't figure out why this can't get out of its range. I'm looking for structure over 86, 20 or so. And it just isn't getting there. So it's kind of aggravating. My trader bias says it should be up in there. AMBA. So this I put out a special alert on, and Whether or not it proves out, same thing. You got to watch price. There's a target right here at mid quad at 49.40 area, and that's coming in around the 10th of this month. So be very cautious. And you've got earnings. You got a 200 MA up here. You got resistance. But this is looking like it might try and chase this for the time expiry around the 10th. So that's over the next few days. I don't think it will. I'm targeting a trajectory like this. So we'll see, because this will be a mid quad here. Like all you do is you just take this vertical line, clone it, move it over to your next time cycle structure, and this right here, 58.51 is your big resistance, 58.57 on the 19th of June. So that's what I'm targeting. I think it's going to follow that trajectory. We'll see. I could be wrong, but when you see these white arrows like this, those are buy-sell triggers. Those are just pointing to the important fibs to trim into and add above. So that's AMBA, AMBA, AMBA. Lots of AMBA there. Oil, oil, oil. XRP. It just can't get moving. I mean, it's been a fantastic return, but I expected it to start to chase targets, and it just isn't yet. But people that picked it up on my alerts that crypto was turning did really, really, really well. Same with Ethereum. You can look at Ethereum here quick. There's a few that I felt so confident about that I sent out private messages to people, the Facebook move, S&P, a few others. XRP, Aetherium. So this is a beautiful chart. Just missed the target, got right up into that resistance, and boom, came off. Beautiful. This channel was charted in advance. So this is its channel. You get down near the bottom of the channel, hit it for a long. You get near the top of the channel, trim it back. Super clean. But this is just another example of, charting it in advance, telling our traders, here we go. And, normally that charting of that channel would happen, of course, after the channel is traded through. So that's Ethereum. Bitcoin, same kind of thing happened to Bitcoin. Tesla. Bitcoin hit our price target too, came off. Actually got up over the price target and came off. It was a little aggressive. So here's the Tesla structure. So trading 303.46. So your trading rate in here. This is the mid quad. You see how it's using it as a pivot? It bounced in between the two. So you'll see that a lot. It used the next one down here as support. So these mid quads are really, really important. Anyway, you can see how it's coiling around it, and now it's getting into the 50 MA. It gets up over that 50 MA and shorts are finished. So the shorts got to be panicking soon. That's very bad for the shorts. It gets up over this resistance, so 304.38. It closes above that, 304.38. It closes above the 50 MA and the shorts are done. So this is literally the live test. Sweaty palms if you're short. AGN. So this is a massive time cycle structure that's coming to completion. Don't ignore this one. This is massive. This is a weekly chart, and this comes due on the 4th of next month. And right now, if the time cycle completion was done and it got bullish, its first target would be 165.07. Its next target 198.34, and don't forget about the diagonals. But there's a very, very good chance that you're going to see in the 229 range. And I know it sounds crazy. You know, somewhere in between the 198 and 229. That 200 MA might cut that short. So if it does get a bounce, you know, it might meet the 200 MA around 213 or even around 182. So you just watch that 200 MA as it gets its bounce. If it doesn't and it dumps, I don't even have the targets on here for the dump. So I'd have to remodel it. But this one trades really clean, and it's a super awesome, strong structure. So I'm betting it's going to bounce. If you didn't catch those numbers, just watch the video later and you get the numbers. Of course, our members can get the charts anyway, but this was the Facebook washout snapback. So, you know, this one's a great one for training people because there's just so much technical perfection in it. But it dumped. We took our longs. It just missed the target at first, and then it got into it and turned all the way, you know, so where these green arrows are, that's support and resistance areas, just different discussions. And anyway, I followed it. You see how it does that? Boom, into the target. Then it should retrace, and it did. It retraces. Now, it didn't get all the way to the target because normally, you know, if you're in a bull move, it'll just come halfway on the retracement and then go again. And that's basically what it did. But before it does, it dumps, it shakes the last out, and then goes. And once it got to this quad wall here to the upside, I knew, and you know, some big alerts were going out there, up over the 200 MA, into the quad wall, comes off, sits on the 200 MA, so a little bit of a retrace, and now it's testing the quad wall up here. That's an important test. If it beats that test, then you're targeting 195.77 on the 18th of this month. That's the bullish. Not so bullish, moderately, you know, to the upside would be 180.171. Or if it dumps, you're down to 167.42. But that's not just a simple retrace. That would have to be a proper, you know, dump. And it's not likely, but it could happen. But I'm, believe it or not, I'm shooting for up here, 195.70 range on the 18th of this month. That's Facebook. LPSN. So I've had this one on alert for some time. These white lines are your main support and resistance areas. It got up over it, it bounced, it almost got into the next one near immediate. But when I charted this, I had said, you know, here's my trajectory, and sure enough, look at that. And now it's coming off, but it just about, you know, just about nailed the last target there. Really nice trade. So what am I watching for there? I'm watching for the area of 1740 to 1770 for it to hold, to hit 1960, and then the ultimate target here would be $20.40. If it dumps, then you just follow the numbers. If anybody needs any of these charts, just let me know after the call, and I'll send you a link. Okay, ESPR, it was coiling the pivot, and I never did alert the long side, but I was hoping that we were going to get a long side play out of earnings. What we've gotten is a washout. Now the washout is actually quite structured where it washed out to. So the magic number for me is 40, around 40, 80, something like that. But it has to close above it. It can't just, during the day, intraday, get above it. If it starts to build structure over that 40, 80 range, and the number one thing in the structure is if it closes above it, especially for 3 days, so into the 4th day is perfect, then I'll long it. My first target will be here at 49.89. It might dump further. If it does, it should dump into this range here in 27.32. But my bias is to the upside, and I think I'm going to be able to take this trade to 40.71, and then I guess, then at that point we're going to have to test it and see. But I think this is going to be a decent washout snapback trade. I just got to get it realarmed here. Maybe what I'll do is this. There we go. Okay, we'll see how that one works out, but I like it. And the last one I want to look at here is edit. So tomorrow I'll look at the new ones. This is a good refresher on the existing. Okay, so trading 34, 32. So it's getting right into that target there. So that's a perfect move almost. Look at that. Wow. Very interesting. Up over that 50 MA, 37.63. So this is probably your structure. It's probably going to chase that 37.63 for, later this year. It could, in its most bullish scenario, hit 47.54. So I'm going to watch this very, very, very close. Okay, so that's it for today. I don't think there was any charts put into the room, so I'll call it a midday. It's 12:56 on May 7, 2018. That's midday review. I'll get this video. The first thing I'll do with my homework tonight is I'll get the video out, and I'll email that to members. And then tomorrow we'll go through all my new ones. I've got swing trading reports to get out tonight anyway, so that'll give me an opportunity to look through some of the other charts that I haven't looked through too, to get my scans done and setups for tomorrow. Have an excellent day, guys. We'll talk to you later.